Get myself off. Okay, right.
Okay. How's it going, everybody? This is episode 25 of the G&T show. Of course, myself, Glenn, and then Tony to me left. I'm not sure if he's on me left or me right. This time with Zoom and everything. So without further ado, our next guest is Colin Bryce, Olympian and co-founder of Giants Live. How are you keeping, man?
Very well. Thank you very much for having me. We tried a few times and it hasn't worked out so well, but finally. So nice to speak to you guys. Thank you.
Of course. Unfortunately, it's on Zoom at the moment because, of course, we're across the sea, but nonetheless, it's still great to have you on, and thanks very much again for taking time out of your day, because we definitely know you have a busy schedule. So
yeah, things are very manic at the moment, actually, and you never know what's going to happen. We did a show last week in London, and we had Eddie Williams over. He came at the last second because Iron Bibi, who's one of our big African strongmen, you guys might know him, but he couldn't make it. There's terrible terrorism in Burkina Faso. So at the last second, we flew this big Aussie in, but we couldn't fly him out for a week. So he literally just left my house. A 405-pound Samoan guy who's been living in my house, eating me out of house and home. So there's, I'm trying to do business for the next one while someone's knocking on my door looking for meal number 8. So. Yeah, that's good fun. No, he's a great guy, actually.
So it was actually, Glenn didn't really know much about strongman or yourself until we went over to the Arnold last year. And me and my friend Mick, we showed Glenn, this is strongman. We got tickets for the Sunday, and it was a hell of an event. But Glenn and myself fell in love with your ethic and your charm, just the way you come across with people. And
I don't know what to say. Thank you. That's very.
And even when I was at Eddie and Thor's fight in Dubai, and I seen you walk around, you have time for everyone. Given you're busy, you're on the go all the time, you have time for everyone. And then we looked a little bit more into your story, and there's more than just Colin and Giants Live. You have a bit of a past with your own sport.
Oh, you have a bit of a past. Come on, admit your convictions. Yeah, I mean, I was. I guess I was. To be honest, I wasn't really doing any sport after I left university. After school, I was playing rugby. And it was, I couldn't kind of get my act together to get myself organized. You leave school and you're moving on your own, and things were difficult. And then began weightlifting again, and it was a great thing, actually, because I became a bit of a dosser for a little while. I wasn't doing any sport, and boy, did I fall in love with weights when I hit the weights room. And then I decided, or a mentor of mine came along by chance, as mentors often do, and took me into the Highland Games. And it was great. Highland Games, are pageantry. I was a thrower there, tossing cabers, all that nonsense, making money, professional sport. And then, I was okay at that. I tried my hand at athletics, came sixth in a British indoor athletics final. Wasn't particularly talented at that. Not talented enough, really. And then I was better at weightlifting. Did a Britain's Strongest Man on my third or fourth contest. Just had a flyer. Took on a fella called Glenn Ross, who's a big fella from Northern Ireland, and he was Britain's Strongest Man. Through with him, came equal first in my heat. I'll never forget that. And then we made it to the final. Made the final, came 7th. It was all right, but I wasn't big enough to do strongman. I knew that, so I then decided my 110 kilo frame, unless I'm really going to try and gorge myself, was never going to be 140 kilos. I just didn't want to go through what you have to do necessarily to become that size and that power. Nowadays, it's more like 160 kilos more, they're getting bigger and bigger. And I went and did bobsleigh, which is kind of a weird thing to do. And I've always been a big believer in trying to get as much free travel as possible in life. As a youth, that's all you want to do with it. I thought it's the next best thing. It's not quite professional. It is. They pay all your costs, and people don't do it recreationally. You either make it into the British team or you don't. And they invited me down for a test, and I went. Yeah, it was just perfect for me. Pulling a truck's a little heavy. Pushing a sled was absolutely bang on. So it was It was good. It was great. And as long as you're stupid enough to jump in the sled and keep doing it again and again, chances are most people will get injured, messed up. And I just about sort of fell over by luck into the Olympic team. And yeah, that's it. Really came back after that. And did I do much after that? No, I was knackered, to be honest. I had a bad back and a smashed ankle, and that was it. That's my career. That's my sports career pretty much done. Yeah.
How long did you do it for?
I did it for, actually, it totals about 5.5 years.
And you were in the Olympic team?
Well, I did almost straight away, I did the Junior World Championships. Because basically there's two guys. There's one guy with the skills, and then there's a muppet dumb enough to sprint behind him and jump in. And all you got to do is basically be the fastest man, or try to be the fastest man in the world over 20 meters. So you don't even need a fifth gear. So it's you kind of became, and I'd like to think I was up there with any British sprinter, if I was 100% over 20 meters. And then, it just, where's the guy's fifth gear? What's happening? Why is he so good at the start? And that's how it was. We could, I was very good at, vertical leaps and all that kind of stuff. And that's exactly what you need, bobsleigh. So the guy at the front is the guy who drives it. It takes him probably 7-8 years to get the skills. And yeah. There was another, I think the first ever Irish bobsleigh team was at the same Olympics as me. A guy called Donoghue. He was a good guy, yeah.
Do you still talk to people in the sport, or would you be still around it at all or anything like that?
I'm still around it because there's no one else there's not many of us who did it, you know what I mean? So I can blag my way onto the BBC to commentate the Olympics in it, you know what I mean? Not because I'm the greatest commentator, just because there's no one else who's ever spoken on television commentary. So, here's my advice in life. You were joking, I don't know if you were joking, but you wanted to hear my little tips and whatnot. Find yourself a niche. Find a niche and become the big fish in it, because, you know, instead of trying to don't go to football and try to become Cristiano Ronaldo, Ronaldo. Go to bobsleigh and try and become, whatever. There's not so many people.
For life, if you find something like that.
Start trying tomorrow, Tony.
Yeah. Do you know what? I'm sure they're looking for people still. The Irish team. It was he was a 400-meter hurdler for the Irish athletics team, and then he went over. He was bloody good, actually. Peter Donoghue was his name. Yeah, he's good. He did 2 or 3 Olympics. There you go. He never. I mean, I was. I'm scared to say. I think it might be wrong as well. I was 20th equal, I think, with Monaco. It's just hardly a superpower of winter sport. But, we beat some big teams. We beat Chinese Taipei, Mexico. They're massive in winter sport. We beat Trinidad and Tobago at Jamaica. Basically, this is how winter sport works, right? In the bobsleigh, everyone turns up in the world, and then the Germans win. First, second, and third. And then after them, the Swiss coming 4th, 5th, and 6th. And then, occasionally you get lucky and someone gets close to that. But that's sort of what happens. I mean, pretty much.
Well, Colin, what does the training actually entail in bobsled? Like, obviously it's an Olympic sport. How do you prepare for the Olympics? Like, what kind of training do you have to do?
Honestly, the driver has to get his hands on a sled as soon as possible and begin driving. But the crash test dummy who sits behind him, which was my job. I was the brake man. Or you got 4-man, you got 2 side guys, and really we just weightlifted, sprint. At Thor Park, which is like an amusement park outside in West London. It's where the old British bobsleigh sled track was. Where the dry slope where you push, and it's not very well known. And we used to have to sort of break in through Thorpe Park to get to it to train, because they had shut it down, and that was the only facility we had, unless we went to Bath. You just basically push a shopping trolley down some railroad tracks. It's ridiculous. You dare I say it, and lots of bobsleighers will hate me for this, but if you're a brake man, chances are you're doing it to get the glory of an Olympics. You didn't one day think, I really, really, really want to sit behind with my nose up someone's arse in a set of lycras, freezing my ass off, ready to die at any turn for no reason except this guy having fun in front of me who gets to watch everything. So yeah, you do it to try and get to the games, and it's cutthroat there. I mean, there's the guys who are good, guys who try and do it every year are very good. What's the name of that ginger-haired long jumper? He tried to make it. Who's the fellow who won the Olympic gold?
Couldn't tell you. It seems like bobsleighing is probably for the people who didn't make it in other sports in the Olympics, and they just said, "Fuck it." A few years.
Well,
left.
no, I tell you what it is. It's I'm gonna find that guy's name here. He was the 2012 long jump Olympic champion, and his name is. Basically, people come to it after. There he is, Greg Rutherford. Do you remember Greg Rutherford? Ginger-haired fella.
Heard the name.
I guess he's not quite so big in Ireland as he is in Britain. I do realise. But again, you probably wouldn't even know these names. But in our team, John Regis, Marcus Adam. Marcus Adam was a guy who, in his day, beat Michael Johnson 4 times in a row over 200 meters. He won the Commonwealth Games. He was good. John Regis has had the 200 meter British. So I think he still has the 200 meter British record, 1989. But they were just a little past it. So, but they still have acceleration over 30 meters. So it was. But you got to have the bollocks to jump in. That's the difference, So, yeah. In fact, it came down to me and Regis to make the last place of the team. I'm boring. I'm even boring myself now. Come on. What else do you want to talk about?
So where did you go after that when you came home from the Olympics?
I'd sold my apartment. I had given up my job. And I went to my uncle's house in Acton in West London. And I remember sitting there after about 3 weeks of sitting there, hee-haw to do. And I was the only time I've ever felt so depressed in my life. Achieving your dream is a terrible thing when you only have one dream and you live a very narrow path. And to get it, I would have done just about anything. I gave up women. I had this insane thought that women weaken legs. I ate fish, rice cakes, and broccoli for about a year and a half. Because you don't want excess fat. You want to be as powerful as you can. Just muscle. So I was depressed as hell, actually. It's a hell of a depressing thing going to the Olympics. It's even more depressing going to the Olympics and winning, so I've heard. But and that was I forget his name, the big rower who won 4 Olympic golds. When I was working at the BBC, he said to me, I tell you what, there's nothing worse than winning a gold medal. He said, but the British girl who's won a gold medal in skeleton, she'll be all right. She'll probably have a bit of a downer in about 14 days, but she'll be okay because she's got family around her. He said, I was such a solo loner. I felt suicidal within 8 to 10 days. And it's actually one of the most non-spoken about sort of things about the Olympic Games. They're actually much hotter on it now. Anyone going to the Olympics has to go have little assessments and whatnot before and afterwards to make sure they're mentally sound. But it's you fall off a precipice. It's like, oh shit, I never thought about what happens after I make the Olympics. Yeah. And then suddenly you're standing in the mirror looking at yourself in this tracksuit and you're thinking, geez, I haven't got a pot to piss in. What have I done to myself? Also, I can slide down a hill and wear a flag on my chest. I must be off my head. And that was really when I kind of went, bloody hell, Bryce. It's time to wake up, man. You're 27. You've basically done a bit of work, but you've been playing around, you've been dossing. So it was time to get the hell on with life, and that's really what I did.
So what happened now? Where did you go? What made you do the decision, and what was next? 27 years of age, and you have this chat with yourself, and where do you go?
In life, I think you're very lucky if you can get one mentor. Someone who really makes a huge influence. That could be your father. My dad was a big influence, and he kind of taught me that if you can. You can just about achieve anything. Of course, you can't achieve anything in life. That's ridiculous. But you can just about. If it's in your scope, then why the hell not? Why not you over someone else? And he was a very determined guy. He was great thrower for British athletics. And yeah, so it's. I knew that one thing the Olympics had taught me is I really could just about do anything if I went for it. And if I failed, then it's not a big problem. I just pick myself up and go for the next thing. Belief in yourself it gave me, that's for sure. So I was already commentating because I got injured quite a lot. I got injured 4 times or something, quite badly. Broken ankle, got 9 pins in it, snapped knees, fell out of bobsleighs. There is a rough side to it. And there's no pension kicking around, for afterwards. But so I had to go and So I was commentating in the injured periods for Eurosport. Luckily, it was on Eurosport television, and I had a lot of people that. Anyway, it just so happened the guy who was in charge of Eurosport knew I did strongman and asked me if I'd start commentating all those shows. And there was lots back then. Friday night strongman on Eurosport used to be quite a big deal. Different channel now. It's all owned by Discovery, so it's not quite the same. But it used to have loads of wacky sports, and I would be there. I'd go in and do timber sports for an hour, and then I'd do hour of strongman. I'd commentate the World Hot Dog Championships the next day. There's loads of weird and wonderful things that you had to bluff expertise in, and that was it was a great grounding in just how to, I guess, communicate. If anyone's watching this thinking, no, he can't, but there we are. But, you learn to sort of, you guys must listen to your voice back on the podcast and sometimes think, bloody hell, stop chewing marbles are warm. Or don't cut across your mate because it sounds crap,
Believe me, Colin, every time.
I mean, people only know you're laughing if there isn't loads of digital breakup while you're both laughing. You know what I mean? So obviously, it's like learning the etiquette of how to deal with it, and it's all everything. Every success builds on a little more confidence to the next one. And I actually took over. I was commentating this fellow on Eurosport, and he had a tour called the Super Series. This is like 2003. And they had this terrible presenter, grey-haired, ponytail, overweight, bloated, really sleazy look. He used to have lots of chewing tobacco up there, that look from the tweet. And he went, "Hey, welcome to wherever." And so anyway, I got the guy's number who ran the tour, the producer. I said, "Listen, I'm commentating your show on Eurosport. Hey, I love you. I love your voice. Listen, thank you you do a good job." I was like, "Mate, do you want someone to present your shows? Because I tell you what, that guy, that debauched fella, who really, he's got a look, mate, you don't want on television." "Yes, okay, all right, smartass. That's me. Why don't you come on? You think you can do better? Come on over." And that was it. Unbelievable. Most people probably would have hung the phone up. But this guy, he was a good man. He was a bit of a mentor. He was very much a mentor. Ulf Benson, who was the most photographed model in the 70s and 80s as a bodybuilder. He was Mr. Abs, but like all of us, we can stack a few pounds on and lose our hair. So, and you still think you're quite handsome. But anyway, so when I gave him that rundown, he was pretty hurt. But anyway, we became friends, produced his tour. And then, eventually my opening came to start running World's Strongest Man as a tournament. Not that long after it, really. It was probably 2.5 years later. There was a very, I would say, underhand. They would probably beg to differ, but that move by a federation that ran strongman to basically try and own it. It's owned by a television company who were employing me. I was at the time MC on it. And I'd been working on it since 1996 as an equipment guy, or I was reserve a couple of times. Actually, I didn't mention that earlier, but it's not really, to be reserve at a contest isn't exactly a big boast. But there you go. I knew strongman. I was heavily immersed in it from a young guy. Highland Games is really the precursor. A lot of it, that and vaudeville, are the precursor to the modern, mashed up strongman that we see now on television. So there we go. Next question. Anything else? Anything tickle your fancy from that?
But when did you make the decision now to go with Giants Live? When did you decide that I'm going to bring my own organization and get this going?
Well, this is as I said to you, I'll be very honest. This is something that I'm not particularly happy with in my career. But that same fella, Ulf, I started to take over and produce his whole show. And then I did so until about 2008. And things had gone badly. He owned a huge gym chain, and things had gone a little tricky for him. He had 1.44 gyms, of most of which were in Russia. And he got thrown out. I think basically the mafia took it off him in a very heavy-handed move. And, you know, things weren't, I was running out of London. Things weren't really getting paid. I had a lot of, you know, if I invite you along to start working, someone's got to pay you. And I stalled, and things got a bit ugly. Suddenly my editor didn't want to edit anymore. He hadn't been paid. It was difficult. It was difficult, really difficult. I'll never forget, he turned up to the final one I worked with him at in a $110,000 Mercedes, or 10,000 euro Mercedes. I thought, really? Things ain't that bad. Or the mafia paid you out, man. That was the moment I went, right, I'm going to start my own one. If I'm doing all the work and I'm doing everything else. So I feel bad about it, because in a way, I wish I had warned him that I was going to leave and just said right there and then and left. Instead, I just produced his series for another year while I sorted it all out. And then it was my connections at World's Strongest Man that held the World's Strongest Man tour. I didn't kill his tour off. I just took the World's Strongest Man qualifying system with me to Giants Live. And that was because it was, you know, it was sort of it was a deal given to me rather than the tour. He carried on and did his tour, but it lasted, I think, 1 or 2 more shows. So, you know, I felt a bit bad. I still do feel bad about it, very bad, because he's had many businesses, many successes, and many failures. And I'm guessing he probably would see what I did as disloyal. But, you know, I gave him plenty of warning. Now I wish I hadn't brought this up now. What, you should have warned me, guys.
We can edit if you want. That's how you win. No, but
that's hard, man. That's hard to talk about that. That's a funny one. It was a big one, just starting Giants Live. It's very scary as well, because I owned a very small percent of that other company. And another guy called Odd Haugen owned a chunk, but really it was all Ulf. And we'd been done Madison Square Garden. First show in 100 years, almost to the day, since Strongman had been there. And I was giving it the big one, either pay up or I'm going to do it myself, Ulf. Pay up the guys, or come on, Ulf. Come on, you got to pay up. If you haven't got the balls to do more big arenas, I'm going to do them, Ulf. And then in the end, I did leave them, and suddenly I was like, oh shit, here we go. It was scary. It was really scary. You know, it's not I'm not some family of money behind me, not at all. I was still part-time PE teaching, just in case it all went absolutely, you know, belly up. So I thought I could always skulk back to PE teaching, and it's a very good profession. So yeah, that was kind of it, really. And then off we went. I had AEG initially. AEG are the biggest, I'd say, Live Nation and AEG are, you know, putting on shows, entertainment, owning arenas, everything. You know, they own, people like that own Ticketmaster and all these other things. You know, just mega companies. And AEG, a Phil Anschutz company, partnered with me and a guy called Charles Garland, who was a sort of big city hitter kind of guy, and he had loads of money for a huge deal. You never know who's going to like Strongman. That's the weird thing. And I went and found investors, and I went and found him. He was great, had loads of money. He brought AEG in, and so I actually thought we couldn't fail. I thought, this is it. I finally got the world's biggest events company. I've got Charles Garland, who's just helped build up the company called 19. The guy called Simon. Before there was Simon Cowell, there was Simon Fuller, right? Anyway, I won't bore you with that one. But anyway, they sold the company for millions, this TV company. And so that was not the problem either. We did one show with this big corporation, me, and Charles Garland, and it was 2007, of course, the banking crisis. But by the time 2009 came around, money was scarce. We still managed to get 5,000 people through the gate at Mohegan Sun. But if you work with a corporation, they have huge overheads and they're in charge of the purse strings and they have most of the shares and they couldn't make a profit out of it. And that was it. So they said, there you are. there's the company. We've had enough. We're walking away now. All sports tours, FIVB, volleyball, some other ones like an indoor tennis tour, all bellied up. It is cut them all. And they cut us as well. That was it. No more funding. It dies now. We'll cut our losses. So, yeah, that was weird. I kind of hustled my way through a few years of just literally just me with the fear that, if you invite all the big guns there and you pay, I don't know, back then you probably do a contest for $25,000 prize money and get some big names and fly guys in. The whole thing might cost you $80,000, $90,000. So if you can organize $100,000, wow, okay. So you might make $20,000 over one of these weekends. Nice one, that'll do. It wasn't a huge hustle. It wasn't filling arenas, but it was more kind of going to, evil countries or somewhere like that. It would give you a little bit of money to do it. and then go to evil nations of the world or wherever. Or it was always a bit slippery, actually, some of the people we had to work with. But I kept it going. Guys got paid. And I can remember once coming back from South Africa. He was a good guy in the end. And he took us out. We went out and I went down there with, I took Brian Shaw and loads of guys. Sven came down as an MC. There was just Stefan Solby from Iceland. Loads of good dudes. Koklaya from Russia. And a 2-day event in front of a huge crowd at the Rand Center. They got all the ticket money. And my deposit never came. I kept saying, guys, I'm worried about this. I paid for all these flights. I got to pay the prize money. I've never failed to pay prize money. Never failed to pay anybody. Please pay the deposit. The deposit, well, it never came. And I was sitting there, in South Africa. And as we were about to get on the flight, he was driving me to the airport. I said, mate, I've just called. By this, you never know who's a strongman fan. It was a Sunday evening, and the Barclays bank guy had become a friend because he was a strongman fan. And I texted him, mate, my local bank manager, is there any money in there yet? He went, nope. And he said he put it in there. And I said, there's no money, mate. At that time, if I'd had $100,000 loss, I think I'd have had to end it. And anyway, good as his word. I mean, I said to him, my words were, please just tell me. I need to know, have you fucked me? I'm not going to do anything about it. I'm going to get in that plane and go. I just need to know if you have absolutely, screwed me over here. Because I thought, right, I might be able to cut a few deals with the athletes and lower the prize money on the plane. Now, Brian, you see that check I've signed? Because checks were a bit more frequent back then. Any chance I could, just lower it a little bit?
Just take a zero off there.
If not paid me, please. Throw myself at his feet and beg for mercy. But he promised me it did, and good as his word, it was there Monday morning. So thank you, Tony. Thank you, Tony Feldman. Good man. But and then I met the love of my life, Darren Sadler, who is he's my partner.
Is he the little fella you brought out in Birmingham? And he doesn't like talking at all on the mic. He just waves.
That's I'm full of nonsense, and I don't mind making a complete tit of myself on camera, or playing along with stories and jokes and having fun like that. Darren is a very nuts and bolts Yorkshireman, and what I totally lacked was logistics. Daz used to joke he came to a couple of the Giants lives in the early days, and he would joke that there was, basically there was a load of orange cones stolen off the motorway and a Bryce contest. It was some really ropey equipment. I can remember one comment from a guy when we did Istanbul, and there was a guy called Irvin Katona who had the loudest laugh. And he would, basically, Brian Shaw's the Drunas, everyone was there. What a cluster that was as well. right? No one realized it was the same day as the Istanbul Marathon, and it was in the center, in the Central Park, and the marathon ran around it. No one could get in, so we turned up there. This poor fella, and he paid the money as well, but he built a 3,500 seat arena and hadn't sold any tickets, and no one. And he had sold tickets, but no one could even get in. Only like 200 people who were so keen they got in before the marathon. It was a disaster for him and me. The TV looked terrible.
Yeah.
You ever look up 2011 Giants Live Turkey? It was a total shambles.
I'll make me business to look that up when I go.
But great athlete. I mean, really great athletes. Unbelievable. What the hell? Where the hell was I going with this story? I can't even remember now. I was going with this story.
You met the love of your life.
Hey?
You met the love of your life. You were going about that way.
Oh, Darren, yes. Anyway, so thank you. I had all this equipment made and on the cheap, because I thought I'm never going to come back here. And the guy brought it in from Romania, and everything fell apart. Go look up Zydrunas Sabiscus, 2011 Turkey world record axle. And you're welcome to bring it up because I own the copyright. It's mine. So you can play it out. So you can play it out here during the podcast. But all the weights explode off the sides every time it got dropped. It was so embarrassing. It looked awful. So he does a world record, and it's you drop it and boom. And then the next event was tombstone carry, basically like a shield carry.
Yeah,
200 kilos. Big Brian did really, really well. Hold on to it. Felix went really well. But then every time they dropped it started crumbling. And, I can remember Brian still now, come on, man, this is getting lighter for these guys. I'm like, come on, all right, Brian, all right. I'm sorry, mate. Yeah, it's kind of is what it is. It's not too bad. I don't think it's more than, quarter of a kilo. It's 200.
Yeah.
And then Irving Katona went, and he was walking along with it. And literally 2 chunks the size of his hands, it just went, and he was holding the chunks like this as they fell in front of him. And he just, oh no. I think he was one of the last guys to go, thank God. But yeah, I remember at the end he shouted, we brought the truck in to clean it all up, and he said, hey, Colin, why are you bothering with the tailgate? Just sweep it into the bin. I was like, oh, God. I never saw that equipment again. I just got rid of it. What a waste of it. So what has Darren Sadler bought? Darren Sadler bought, extreme hard work, class, logistic understanding, and a great friend who understands strongman, and a great strongman himself. So Daz was I'm awful pleased he offered to do a Giants Live, and he did a hell of a job of one. And there you go, Ulf Benson. That was the one thing I wasn't very good at when I went off to start my own Smartass tour. And Ulf actually, to be fair to him, did quite well at logistics. So there we go. So it's not always easy. Sometimes you just need a partner who has. I wouldn't advise people to have partners in business. I think it's not necessarily a good thing. People go off on different journeys, but if you're both enthusiastic and you can both trust each other, then it's a wonderful thing. And you both have opposing skill sets, I think it's a wonderful thing. Yeah. Do you guys get on? Are you similar or different?
That was we're all right, are we, Anto?
Would we get on? Yeah, sometimes. It depends, Colin. It depends.
This is gonna turn into a therapy session here, so we might have to leave it when we go off the air.
How do you know each other? You two?
We've been best friends for the last 5 years. We met through my cousin, and we've just clicked. We've done triathlons together. We've done marathons together. We lift weights together.
What do you lift? What's your lifts?
My lifts at the moment, I haven't lifted weights since January, but I was benching 125, deadlifting 190, just average, nothing really.
That's good though. It's good. Good bench. Yeah.
I don't know. I'd be the same. I'd be 125, 180.
Okay.
Not too far off him. There's a bit of a weight difference. The strong man himself out of 2 of us is the man next to me.
I did pick up a 110 kg Atlas stone before, so.
Yeah, very nice. You ever tried a strongman contest?
No, I've never actually thought about it, but we have a friend, Jack Harkins, down in Waterford. He was actually Republic of Ireland's strongest man last year, and he keeps asking me and going to go down. So we don't know. We might end up going in and giving it a go.
Yeah, he's actually one man that you could keep an eye out on. Jack
He's doing the
Harkin.
qualifiers in September, I think, actually,
Yeah,
for
yeah,
the sled.
Jack Carrigan. Let me look him
Jack
up.
Harkin.
Jack Harkin.
Harkin, spell his name so I can look him up.
Harkin.
Harkin. I love you guys the way you guys say H. H. How do you say it again? H. Jack Harkin, strongman. Here we go. Okay. I'll yeah. Okay, he's done UK. He's done the ultimate strongman. I see. Interesting. He's got big boy. He's lifted some big weights there. All right, nice one. Okay. Well, you know that you heard of Par.
Yeah. We met Pa not so long ago. Yeah.
He's a good man.
Bad. Yeah, we met him in person. We were at an event at a World Record Day in Derry there not so long ago, and we tried to contact. We met him in person. We asked him to come on the podcast. He goes, yeah, message me when I message me when you get home or whatever. We messaged him, and we're still waiting for a message off.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Right, I'll have a word with him. Pa's a good man. He's funny as hell, actually. He's in fact, I'm sure he'd do your podcast. He enjoys talking. That's for sure.
He's a great sense of humor about himself. Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. But just to ask you, so obviously you've done a lot of events, obviously in the last number of years. Which one was your favorite event and why? As
in individual disciplines or contests?
Giants live events.
So as a show, as a big show.
Yeah.
And you guys came to the Arnold UK and saw that one, did you?
Yeah. We were there for that. Yeah.
Let me flip on his head. What did you enjoy about the show anyway? I'd love to know.
I liked Trey Mitchell.
And what didn't you enjoy? What didn't you enjoy as well?
The best bit was Trey Mitchell's first show out of the US came over and finished. I think he finished third altogether, didn't he? Behind Alexi and Evan.
Yeah.
I loved seeing Alexi how he is before. I remember he was doing the farmer cardies with it was like a coffin shape.
That was a very close one, actually. Yeah.
He came out while someone else was getting ready, and he started lifting it in front of him before. I think it was Tom got into it, and he was just eyeing it up, deadlifting it, getting the feel for the weight.
Remember that? He was the only one. He was just lifting
17 meters. I know in a normal comp it's 20 meters, but he would have beat the record for 20 meters if the stage was a little bit longer.
There was, I can think of two other men. We don't allow people to come out and pick the kid up on the stage. They always have kit backstage. And I shouldn't say this tournament director or world's strongest man, but I do understand why they do it. They want to get their hands on the very piece of kit they're about to lift. And certain things, like picking up a frame, has a balance. And Marius was the ultimate for doing that. I think he kind of he taught Brian Shaw to do it, and probably Novikov has watched Shaw do it. And they would all come out. No one's allowed to toss a keg now. We're about to film. Blah blah blah. Yeah. And then you've got kegs over there, fellas. And next minute, Marius, playing the what? I don't speak English suddenly, kind of like, and he would toss. Oh, Marius, we've got to reset it now. Sand blowers in, and all this kind of stuff. But he'd get his hands on it. He always would do, and Brian does as well still. So. Novikov it's a wise move. He shouldn't have done that. You should never do that. It slows things up. But anyway.
Well, it was really as controversial as the remember I'm sure you've heard about this a lot, about the Thor Johnson, the press. John, the world's strongest man. Who's that man? I've never heard of him before. I'm sure you've got that nearly every interview you've done. Obviously,
Thor. This is my take on it, right? Thor is one of the greatest strongmen in history. Truly unbeatable, I would say, in 2018-19 period. He was just awesome. And he pulled 501. And even if you don't like it and you wanted it to have been in a proper contest, as it were, he pulled it. It's just the way it is. And he did it with ease compared to Ed. So, I think, first of all, let me just talk about Thor. He was not only is he a great strongman, but he was a great boxer. And he beat Eddie fair and square. He beat Eddie fair and square. He has come a long way in terms of changing and growing up even in his personality. I think he's someone who he looks pretty stoic now, actually. And I really quite admire what Hapthor's turned himself into. I think there was a period during his strongman. Let me just tell you how it works, right? Because this is I'm trying to figure out how to tell you this without insulting Hapthor, because I don't really want to ever go down that route again. And I don't, I'd really like to heal wounds. But when somebody wins the world's strongest man contest, every one of them thinks their shit does not stink for a certain period. If you have worked so hard to get something, and then you are told, yes, you are God, and you can't help but even the most humble, simple man finds it difficult to deal with being fulfilling their dreams. It goes back to the beginning of this podcast. It's bad not fulfilling it, but it's even worse fulfilling it sometimes. And with it can become, Anyway, Hapthor had yet to win it. 2017. And it had almost become a bit of a, people, you get sort of thoughts in your head. He'd been on the podium 6 times before 2017. At least 5 times anyway. Yeah, 5 times would make sense. He must have been scared. Amongst the strongmen, there's always a kind of, who's the strongest guy who's never won it is a very common thing. And you say it to someone, it's almost like you're hexing them. Don't say that, man. Don't talk about that around me. I don't want to be that guy. Because 30 guys turn up every year, only one can win. Yeah. And if he's greedy and he wins 4 or 5, then you're in a difficult era. You're never going to win. So it's I think Hapthor was really beginning to become a bit more desperation, because he had so much pressure on him. Magnus Fair had won 4 for Iceland. John Paul had won 4. They had basically more titles than the rest of the world put together, with a population, smaller than Limerick or somewhere. You know what I mean? It's unbelievable. And he was the 6'10" super god on television. He had to win. Yeah. And all the entourage stuff was all rather harsh. And he's just very much a family man, Hapthor. I very much respect that. I think it's awful nice that he had a lot of those people around him. I think even the Australian coach got portrayed a wee bit harshly, because he was a clever man. He is a very clever man. He's a very clever man, and he's very enthusiastic, and that's his side. He's a motivator. But I do give him a hint of blame, because Hapthor actually had come to terms straight away with the fact that he'd had a rep reduced, and as a coach, really, and I say, if he listens to this, I do listen to this, because as a coach, when a referee makes a decision, it's going to happen. That's it. How often do you see something? No, we're changing it 3 hours later in the pub. It's not going to happen, right? It's happened. That's it.
Yeah.
And instead of calming him down, he wound him up. He wound him up, and he wound him up. In fact, I even remember him and all the Icelandic guys coming down. What felt like with pitchforks to get me on that night afterwards. And I was like, geez, Hapthor, we would have been cool about this. We went for a walk together, and he was cool. He was really cool about it. He was actually really cool about it. And we had a very quiet word, and he was basically said, I said, there's a lot of pressure on me, and he said there's a lot of pressure on him. And we had it was almost a wee cuddle, really. That was it. Me and Hapthor had a big cuddle in the African darkness. And all was good, And I remember what I said to him, and I still mean it. I've had my time in sport, and therefore it's not my time in sport. I'm there to facilitate the event, and if they're not happy with me, then I must go. If you not just because you're not happy with me, because I'm not going to hand it over because I'm not happy with you. I didn't win. Well, tough. No, I'm not going to hand over for that, buddy. But once people start saying, actually, true athletes start saying, hey, this is wrong, I truly believe you're cheating, then it's like, whoa, okay. And I said to him, mate, I'll walk out the door and walk away now. And we were fine. That night was fine. Everything else was fine, but it kept getting wound up again. Maybe it wasn't the Australian coach, but it certainly felt like him.
You could see
felt like him. He was a big voice, and he was such an influential figure. And I felt, but Hapthor was great. He came to Europe's Strongest Man the following year. We shook hands. We had a cuddle, and again, you know, I said, "It's good of you to do this, Thor, because you don't have to come to my contest." And he said, "No, I'm going to be a big man about it. I'm going to go and win it next year, and that's the way it is. I didn't get it. You gave a tough decision against me, but that's the way it is." Yeah, thank you. I was give him a kiss almost. You know, thank you. That's all. That's how it happens. Shit happens, and that's the way it is. You got to make a decision, and then Hapthor obviously went on and won Worlds, and it was, you know, thank God he did. He deserved to have a few titles, but he got one, and then he left. Pretty much, sort of COVID happened. He left the sport. You know, he wanted to do boxing with Eddie. There was a lot of money offered, and one thing they forgot to do before they announced that boxing fight together was warn me they were going to use all those posts again. Because all I did was wake up one day to a million texts saying Hapthor, because it just said, today I got something, let me paraphrase it. Today I got screwed over in the sport I love. And another man won, he and Colin Bryce. I was the only name mentioned in these messages, had cheated. And I was like, wow, I thought we were cool about that.
Yeah.
Looking back, and I'm going to say it out loud, I don't think Eddie and Hapthor hated each other all that much.
No,
I don't.
No.
That isn't me saying that because I know, because actually I'm not as friendly with Eddie as people seem to want to think I am. We don't speak very often, only on business things to sort stuff out. You know, if he's coming to one of our shows, or I'm trying to, you know, hire him in to do something. We're really not, you know, big bosom buddies. And never really have been. It's you know, I'm pretty pally with all the guys, but not you know, too close, because it's not right.
Yeah.
So there we go. So that's basically it. Had I known I was going to be a part of the hype, I maybe wouldn't have reacted. And then there was a film that went out, and sure as hell was organized by me, because I thought, screw you, we'll slap you back for that one. And now I wish I hadn't. And we really wish I hadn't. I wish I hadn't sort of shown the uglier side of things. There was no need to do it. And so there's a lot of regrets, a lot of, but not about the call. Hell no. He double dipped and he bent his arms. And I'll say that to him again right now. I wish I'd have just shouted, your arms aren't locked, because everyone understands that a lot easier.
Yeah.
Your arms aren't locked, but I can only shout one thing as the referee.
I watched that documentary. It was as clear as day. Even the day beforehand, you explained the whole thing. You stayed back with him, explained the whole thing, and then the day of, even when he was doing the lifts, you could hear you through the screen.
Warning and everything, Jordan.
Yeah,
he was warned, but he was happy with. I think it was 14 reps he did, wasn't it? And he was happy with it. And then, as you said,
I mean, let me just say this: he wasn't like over the moon that he didn't get his last rep. He was trying very hard for it. But I mean, it's just sort of, it was a kind of a mute point. Eddie hadn't gone yet. I mean, Ed, who knows how many Ed could have done? Who knows? But he'd done one more, and could have done, I'm pretty sure, one more. No one can say that for certain. Maybe 3 or 4 more. Who knows? Without doubt, Eddie was the strongest man that year, and there was I mean, please ask me anything. I'm happy to tell anybody anything and discuss anything. I really am, because there's really nothing to hide. Things sometimes screw up. Sometimes you make changes. Sometimes you do things, and then years later, people are, oh, he did it for the conspiracy. No, he didn't. We didn't have anything to drag. That's why we didn't have a flip and drag. We had nothing except these stupid mining carts that couldn't be dragged, that were used in the opening event of the first day. So, you know, if any other rumors, please ask me. I'm very happy to talk about them. It's just, there is no IOC Olympic Federation either funding us, helping write rules. When I started this, when I started Strongman, and in the sort of early 90s, when I was weightlifting away, you know, it still wasn't exactly, you know, you might as well have told everybody, you know, my sport is masturbating, because that's about how popular that's about how popular it was to say it publicly. I love it, you know, and you just look a bit of a clown, you know. Bodybuilding was a million times cooler. I would say, for me, that's flipped on its head almost now.
Yeah.
Strongman is no longer seen as some slight weirdo figure who's sort of at the end of a pier, embarrassing himself in some saggy underpants, and he's got some sort of tiger skin, leopard skin thing, and you're just a bit of a It's no longer that. It's now what it is, which is. It always seems so obvious to me. I have a brother. I don't know if you guys have siblings. If you have a brother, did you ever compete with him in anything strength? All the time. Probably.
Fighting for the top bunk.
So strength to me was just so obvious. Who's stronger? I mean, you sit with your mates at school. Even my sons. When he was 5, 6, he was already trying to pushing each other and seeing who's stronger and talking about it. It's so basic to every human being. How the heck could it not be a success? That's what I ask people. And I can remember taking it to, before we got AEG and before we launched Giants Live, I actually took it to a guy called Barry Hearn. Do you know Barry Hearn? You know that name? Barry Hearn, he's Eddie Hearn's father, the boxing promoter.
I never recognise the second name, yeah.
I think they're worth about £1 billion now, that company.
Easily, yeah.
Massive. He runs darts, he runs snooker, he runs boxing in Britain, a huge chunk of it worldwide. They're massive. And I was heartbroken when I took it to him, and he went, I don't think it'll fly. Took him for lunch, everything, expensive restaurant, gave him the pitch. I don't know. And I think even he was a bit, it's not like him, because to be honest, he normally sees something and goes, wow, this is an opportunity, this could work. And I think he did it with snooker. Snooker was the same. Snooker used to be a really kind of slightly dodgy old man's thing, in dark, smoky halls, and darts. It was a sort of fat bloke down the pub thing. Now it's cool as rock and roll, and they make big bucks. And he's made them so cool and great. So I was a bit disheartened by that. And I actually, he still is a big hero. But when I knew he would. I knew I'd prove him wrong one day, and I can remember the day we did the deadlift, and we outsold him on tickets at the First Direct Arena for his greatest ever ticket sale, and Strongman did more. So there you go. That was a nice day. He didn't. I didn't send him a text. I quietly sat and smiled to myself.
See the way you were noticing, you knew the audience, people would be intrigued, but do you notice the athletes are changing each year? Because if you went down to a pub and you said, oh, he's a strong man over there, the first thing people think is, oh, he's a big fat man or this. But now the athletes nowadays, they're mobile, they're heavier, and they're leaner looking as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but actually, they're actually heavier. These guys are, I mean, unbelievable. Like Novikov, to be fair, is not a huge man.
No, we met him a few times actually at the weekend, and he's the same height as myself. I'm only about 5'8".
I would say he's, because he's so chunky, probably looks a bit sore, but he's I wouldn't, is he 6 foot? No, he's probably 5'10" or 11. Anyway.
I don't think he's near 6 foot. I think he's probably an inch or two bigger than me.
I don't know. It's hard to tell, because sometimes sometimes you see, like Thor, you see 500 meters away, you go, wow, that's quite a stacked looking sprinter. Wow, he's pretty chunky. And then you realize he's 6'10", and that's how much, oh my God. Now you realize how much muscle is on him. He's like, oh my, how can someone be that big and all that muscle? So it's hard to see, but I think he'd be 6, probably, anyway, just under. But he's got a lot of, he's an incredible athlete. Bloody hell, he's good. He's kind of lucky though, because I think he had a grandfather who was really keen, and he started quite young. I mean, I don't think kids should start doing strongman or weightlifting too young.
Yeah.
But he did start really quite young, and I guess I was about to crack the old, it didn't stunt his growth, but we've just had an argument that he's one of the shortest strongmen ever. It's done him no harm, though, that old wives' tale of stunting growth or whatever.
He still had a very successful career as well, given even his height.
Yeah.
Some people use height as obviously height can be an advantage for a lot of people, but
I think this year's final, looking back, was it was tough for a small, shorter man. Looking back, we had power stairs, which is a tricky one.
Yeah,
but there were certain events like behind the neck press, which you guys haven't seen on telly yet, but you might have seen some of the results. And he won that. He was unbelievable, and like an absolute stud that he is. He went out there and won the bus pull, the truck pull. That's normally back in the day when they didn't really know much about truck pulling and they'd organize it, it was almost always, fattest man wins or heaviest man wins. If you were 200 kilos, you're going to win. 190, then the guy at 180, then the guy was. It was because mass pulls mass. But if you could actually set up a perfect truck pull where it's slow and evenly, fractionally uphill, where you really have to work for it.
Yeah.
And someone like Novikov, who can use all his arms power and his leg power instead of just leaning forward. That's the big difference. And it was just a perfect, long, slow, tiny incline. And he's fit and tough as hell. And it nearly killed him. He was on the floor for about 15 minutes afterwards, almost passed out with fatigue. He was really bad. But
why is that, Colin? Why do you record the Worlds halfway through the year and then it doesn't been shown until Christmas time?
Yeah.
I mean, I totally get it. And this reason's going to really suck. It's really going to suck. It's really going to suck for you. You're going to hate this answer. And it's not my answer. It's just the way it is. Really, the TV stations who bought it get really, really high ratings at Christmas. All TV stations get high ratings at Christmas, but in particular, World's Strongest Man gets really high ratings at Christmas, far higher than a lot of other shows. And I mean, believe it or not, when we went to Channel 5, I think in 2005, we have had our high. Nobody gets higher viewing figures now than 20 years ago, right? It's just not happening because there's so many channels. The pie has been cut up a million ways.
Yeah.
People talk in percentages. We got, 13% of the audience today, says the BBC. But really what they mean is we got less than a quarter of the people we got in the 1970s. You know what I mean? Because everyone watched BBC or whatever if you're in Britain. But in actual numbers as well as percentages, by a long way, our numbers have been going up every single year. And last year was our biggest numbers year ever. And it's unbelievable. We have been the third highest watched show on Channel 5 one year in the final. That's pretty cool for a terrestrial channel. That just wouldn't happen. You guys are sweating away in Dublin, right? I'm sweating away here. I'm basically in my garden shed office. Behind here is like lawnmowers and stuff. And, this is why I do podcasting and things. I got a few eggshell things. I'm sweating away, right? And it's, Christmas time, if no one's watching TV right now, I can tell you the viewing figures, if you put it on right now, wouldn't be a sixth, even maybe not a tenth as high as it would be at Christmas.
It's gas, but people still watch it, even though on social media the winner's revealed on the Sunday or the Monday.
Yeah.
We just do it now because there's no point in there was no point in fighting it. People are just gonna film it from the crowd and this and that. So you might as well release it on your own channels and release it well to the hardcore. And guess what? The hardcore watch it anyway at Christmas. That's the big. You love it. People buy into the characters now. For a while, the big cheese TV station used to hate all this YouTube stuff. They're a bit worried about it. But me at the coalface of finding guys, Giants Live, the qualifying tour, I loved it, man, because suddenly these fellas had a way to showcase who they were. They had a way to start the world. They had their own channels. And I'll say this about a strongman. He is his own, or was until recently. Some of them make enough money. This isn't true anymore, but he is at the start his own coach, his own hype man, his own physio, his own, sponsor. And that's the way it is. These guys are very astute. And if you're not, chances are you're not going to make it. There's not many dumb world-class strongmen. That's just the way it is. Normally, it comes with some pretty high-end intelligence or street smarts to have made it. No one's mollycoddling them along. It's very unlikely a strongman is going to do like some of these guys in the NFL who just go off their head and start, dog fighting or getting drunk and, writing off £1 million cars and killing people. These guys are working hard for their money, and they're not going to let that go. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's even like Mark Felix as well. He's still working away on the construction side, I believe, isn't he? Well,
Mark Felix, I don't think if Mark Felix didn't do that, I think he just would lose his edge. He's so dedicated. So he's like gets up and whips himself every morning. He just loves it. He lives like a monk. He eats only, he just won't eat if the food is full of, garbage or processed things. He just won't eat it. And he's always been like that. I think it's from when he was a young boy in Grenada, they would go hunting for their own fish. And he still lives like that. He's never drunk, never smoked, works 6 days a week as a plasterer, and really has no interest. Truth is, if you ever go on Mark Felix's Facebook, there's a few of us who help him out. He's never got on there himself. Hi, I'm Mark Felix. Really, it's Colin Bryce or a few other old friends who help look after and answer. Felix has he'll tell you something. Colin, hey, I read something on Facebook. Can you reply to him? Or phone up a couple of the other people who help him. But that's not his bag, man. He's just, that's why he's got such a tough grip. Truth is, right, before that Royal Albert Hall, he annihilated the world record. Annihilated.
I remember that.
Training. And then went out there and we did something that was stupid. And that was, we made a big deal of Mark amongst the athletes and changed slightly our own protocol with the other athletes accepting it. And that was that whoever comes last in the first event goes first in the next event. You know how golf, you've got kind of similar idea.
Yeah.
Well, we said, no matter what happens in the first event, is everybody happy if Felix goes out last in the second event? If you can see Felix almost like, oh God, the pressure,
Yeah.
But because what you don't want is Felix, because he's the worst pressure, losing in the first event. He's gonna come out first, break the world record, and then everyone looks totally shit for the next 12 episodes, as it were, of the same event. Something what I learned in the Highland Games was, you knew who was good at things. The best caber tosser always went last. And then you'd have a few guys failing it, and then the last guy, you'd turn it, and the crowd would roar, and they would see how it was done. And, I get it. Highland Games has been professional for 200 years. So everyone up there knows the score. But Felix made a big deal of himself. He doesn't like people making a big deal of him. He's very humble. He's quite shy. And I don't think he liked the star treatment. He just didn't want it. He's just happy just to keep his head down and go. So that'll never happen again.
We went up to him and got a picture of him, and he looked like he wanted to kill us. Because he knew
but he wouldn't. He's shy.
He's
shy, man. He's shy. I promise you, it's shyness that is what it is. Were you pissed?
No, we weren't drinking him over there. We were at the festival.
Okay. Sorry. I'm sorry. I was just wondering if Felix he's very he's quite. Yeah, he never comes out if everyone's having a drink. He just doesn't. He's not really interested in drunk people. He's a really simplistic man, and who likes to stay calm and chilled. But I promise you, he's the nicest man of all time. If someone went down, if someone needed the shirt or would give the shirt off their back, it would be Felix who'd give it first. And he's always the first to run in if someone gets injured or something like that. He'll stop doing his thing and go in. He's just a good guy, Felix. He's great man. In fact, tiny little story. Novikov, when he was 6 years old, went to watch Odessa's Strongest Man, I think it was, or Crimea's Strongest Man. There are names we all know pretty well now in news. And Mark Felix was invited as a guest and won it. So obviously there aren't too many Nazis over there, as they like to say. Because Felix went over invited, won it, and as a 6-year-old boy, Novikov got a photo. So Novikov's age 6 with Mark Felix, who came to Strongman at 36. So he's already an old man when he came. Yeah, it just shows you, it's insane to think, because Novikov's only 26 years old. Felix is 56. Just do the math. It's wow, he could be 6 years old. It's a true story.
Do you see Felix? Do you reckon he has a good few years left in him, or do you think he's gonna jack it in soon enough? In your opinion?
He was going to jack it in 2011. I remember taking to a show in Poland, and he got kind of hurt, had to pull out. And I must remember him saying, Colin, in fact, he always used to call me Collins, because it must be like a whatever, Grenadian name, Collins. Collins. Well, there's only one of me. I know I'm good. There's only one of me. Okay, Collins. And he, do you think I should retire? I don't think I could do this anymore. I said, how old are you? So you know what, Mark? Why don't you just give it one more go, mate? You know, people love seeing you there. You know, give it one more go. Stick with it, man. And here we are. You know, sometimes remind him that's the only time I've heard about him talking about retirement. In fact, I think there was a thought that they could get a good retirement story out of Felix this year. 17 times the world's strongest man, 56. You know, and I got nudged to go ask him if he's maybe going to retire. You know, from the fellas making the TV. And I sort of went up to Felix and said, when do you think you're going to retire, Mark? I have no idea. I'm enjoying myself. I thought, I can't. Who am I to suggest he should retire just so they can make some good pennies?
Yeah.
Right. Great. Good. We love you, Mark. Of course. I hope you stay for as long as you possibly can. So, yeah.
What's the future now, Colin, for the Giants Live? What's your goals? Where do you see it? Where do you see Strongman has grown each year, especially in Europe a lot?
You know, it's been a magnificent ride. And it's gone from being a weirdo sport, you know, to at the Arnold this year. I don't know if do you guys get a vibe that strongman was almost as important or more important than bodybuilding even? Or was I deluded when I was there?
Yeah. It's very
you had a little bit of that flavor. Yeah. Yeah.
You see it's just going right up now, yeah.
Do you know why it is? It's because finally, and this is why I do love social media so much. You guys are interested in it. I'm sitting here chatting to you. Who knows? Maybe 1,000, maybe 10,000, maybe 1 million people are watching. You have no idea. And actually what happens is it's a leveler. Not everybody wants to sit around watching, you know, I don't know, cricket or American football or these things that get huge rights money for. We have a video on Facebook that has 347 million views. Find me many other sports who can claim 340 on one video. There's not many, only music artists mainly. Why? Because strongman's so simple to watch and everyone likes it. But people in television were exceptionally snobby about it. There was The World's Strongest Man, which was a joke show, and then and that was that. We could only take one silly, you know, sideshow show, as it were, and that's it. But not anymore. People, as it's a self-leveler, social media. And that's a beautiful thing. So things can rise that TV executives didn't think how dare you like these things? Well, guess what? Millions like it now. Millions have always enjoyed it. And if you'd have put it on television, maybe millions more would have watched it. So maybe we won't always be so sideshow, is my hope. America, what do you want? Genuinely, aspirations? Yeah, 100% Vegas. I've not done that. I'd love to go back and do Madison Square Garden properly. In other words, maybe 12 shows a year instead of 6. I want this UK and USA thing to be a success in Liverpool at the Echo Arena. If that can be massive, you've got to ride a cup, haven't you? And then bigger prize money, bigger everything. You know, I'd love it to give 12 shows a year, like the UFC, go different locations. I'd love to get more Asian guys, more South American guys involved. That's why we started the official strongman, officialstrongman.com. If anyone wants to try and qualify for any weight category, age category, male and female, for all the different World's Strongest Man trophies, except the big one. The World's Strongest Man is obviously, that's always going to be the sort of crown and the jewel television show. Yeah. And that's you know, it's got momentum. I think it's not that long before, because remember, I'm talking about Giants Live. My other hat on, tournament director of World's Strongest Man. I think the big TV company are moving towards a much more live event, and you know, looking a bit of what we do. Great respect to what they do though, because they're Big Daddy and our partners, and I think they'll try and make the show quicker, you know, more crowd, and I think it'll be even much more fun to go and see. And actually, you might not have to wait to Christmas if you want to go see him in a 5,000, 10,000 seat arena. I think it's coming sooner rather than later. Yeah. Will you see it on a live stream? You see ours on live streams, but you know, they have big American deals where you just can't put stuff out before it goes on the channel. Do you know what I mean? So there's that many people. Oh, why don't you give us the live stream? Yeah, we could do, but if it wasn't for the 800 dodgy rip-off guys who pirated it and put it out, who ruined the party for everybody. That's the problem. Yeah. If everyone was happy to pay $2, then it's fine, and no one nicks it and rips it. But you know, the truth is, I won't watch a UFC fight, and I'll wait until the Sunday morning for some dodgy geezer to put it on YouTube. That's the horrible truth. We all do it. This is the way it is. You know, it's life. You know, but we aren't charging $50. You know, we're charging, I don't know, 6 or 7 now. I think. Anyway, it's human nature, isn't it?
You could put your Giants Live cap back on. Would you ever bring the Giants Live to the Tree Arena in Dublin?
I think it would do really well in Ireland. I think so. I hope so. I'm an eternal optimist, so maybe. How big's the arena?
Well, yeah.
How big is the arena there?
16,000.
Wow, it's big. Okay.
I think it's 16,000, but then when they do standard, that's for standard. When you do seated, I think it goes down to 10 or 11.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things you, when you're putting on big arena shows, you become quite good at, especially in the early days or new locations, is black draping is a great thing. An arena with a giant black drape can suddenly feel a little bit smaller, and nobody ever knows, you know. I mean, we had what felt like a sellout at Wembley Stadium a few years ago, but truth is, we only had about a third of what it's actually capable of. But with great amounts of boxing and planning, everyone's packed in, and you don't even realize. Yeah.
Just before we finish up, Colin, are you happy with everything we covered, or Glenn, do you have anything else you want to say? But I can't believe how
taken away. I'm taken away.
You really are, Colin, for a man who's been through so much and who's running Giants Live and part of the world's strongest man. You really are very open, and we appreciate that and being honest with us.
Thank you. I'm amazed you didn't talk about the Luke Stolman nonsense this year, but maybe you didn't even hear. Maybe I don't know if anyone even how many people hear about these things. They become very acute to me because But anyway, we'll leave that one for another time. I can't be bothered to go to that one. But I am very happy to go into everything. I really am. There's no need to not, because everything is
It's all out there, nearly, isn't it? With everything in social media.
Yeah, social media can. I'm sure you guys have found you'll have your haters, and you'll have your hot. So often, it's different to in your face. When people to your face, very rarely do you hear a criticism. You know, it's funny. You know, great show, great this, do that. You're doing a good job. And then you go online, he's a right git. I bet he's cheating. He's embezzling money. Whoa, where are these coming from? People don't go around writing too many positive things online. Occasional ones, little hearts, little likes, and so these guys, you know, the kind of people who do spread these awful things will often have 5 or 6 different fake accounts, so they'll sit there and agree with themselves. Hey, I've heard that too. You know, God, go get a life, people. You know, it's like, you know, go do something yourself. It's not that easy.
Hop in a bobsled or something with it.
Oh, someone's calling me. Hopefully that doesn't ruin the podcast. Sorry, I better hang up.
No problem.
But I know them. They're gonna call back again about 5 times in a row. So I better be going.
Well, Colin, thank you for giving us Sunday evening.
Thank you, gentlemen. I do appreciate it. It was good fun. Thank you.
I'll keep in contact with you. Thanks very much, everyone, for listening, and good night and God bless.
Thank you, Colin.
I hope that wasn't too boring. I do talk.